Have you ever wondered what truly keeps a narcissist up at night? It's not losing money, status, or anything superficial. It's something much simpler but devastating for them: being ignored. When someone decides they no longer care, that they won't give attention or energy anymore, it becomes a narcissist's worst nightmare. They thrive on admiration, validation, and control. And when that is taken away, their world begins to crumble. Today, we're going to explore why disdain is so threatening to them, and how this strategy can be your most powerful weapon to free yourself from toxic relationships. You'll understand not only what happens in the mind of a narcissist, but also how to use this knowledge to reclaim your power. If you've ever felt trapped in a cycle of emotional manipulation, know that there is a way out. What I'm about to share here could completely change the dynamic between you and that person. So, stay with me, because now we're going to dive into what defines a narcissist and what makes them so dependent on others' attention. My name is Lauren Mitchell, and my purpose with this channel is to show that the problem was never you. If this content resonates with you, like the video and subscribe to our channel. Let's get started. To understand why disdain affects a narcissist so much, we first need to understand who they really are. A narcissist isn't just someone who enjoys attention. They depend on it to keep their false self-image intact. This person lives behind a mask of grandiosity, projecting an image of superiority and importance. But deep down, they hide profound vulnerabilities. Rejection, humiliation, and abandonment are their greatest fears, and everything they do is a desperate attempt to avoid those emotions. This behavior doesn't come out of nowhere. Often, its origin lies in old traumas, where the person developed defense mechanisms to cope with intense pain. However, this doesn't mean we should justify their actions. On the contrary, understanding this pattern helps us see how they manipulate and control others to sustain their own ego. The cycle begins with charm, followed by isolation, where the victim starts orbiting around the narcissist, feeding their emotional needs. But what happens when that supply dries up? When the person who once admired them unconditionally decides they will no longer give attention? This is where we start to see cracks in their armor. They don't know how to handle the loss of control. Every diverted glance, every act of indifference is perceived as a direct threat to the fragile structure they've built. This almost absolute dependence on external validation reveals just how vulnerable they really are. And now that you know who a narcissist is, we can explore why disdain becomes so devastating for them. Disdain is the most powerful weapon against a narcissist because it strikes directly at the core of their deepest insecurities. When you decide to stop caring, you're confronting everything they've spent years trying to avoid: rejection and abandonment. These emotions are like ghosts from the past, haunting their mind, and when exposed to them again, they panic. The narcissist has built an entire life based on the idea that they are special, admired, and indispensable. But when someone shows indifference, that illusion begins to crumble. Disdain isn't just ignoring, it's treating the narcissist as irrelevant, as if they have no value anymore. This dismantles the entire narrative they've created about themselves. For someone who lives off attention, being treated as invisible is unbearable. Here's the key point: genuine disdain forces the narcissist to confront their own fragility. Without external validation, they are forced to face the parts of themselves they try so hard to hide. And this triggers a visceral reaction. Anger, anxiety, and even despair may arise as they attempt to regain control of the situation. But why does this happen so intensely? Because disdain doesn't just remove the emotional supply, it also reveals the truth. It shows that the narcissist isn't as important as they like to believe. They can't handle this reality because it threatens to destroy their fragile identity. This dynamic explains why disdain is so devastating for them. But what happens when the narcissist realizes they're losing control? How do they react when they feel their mask is about to fall? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. When the narcissist realizes they're being disregarded, their reaction is immediate and intense. They don't know how to handle the loss of attention, especially when it comes from someone who once put them on a pedestal. Disdain triggers a series of behaviors that reveal their emotional fragility. The first reaction is almost always fury, an explosive mix of anger and panic that reflects the fear of being abandoned. To regain control, they'll try anything to reclaim their central position. This can include emotional manipulation, such as playing the victim or creating drama. Phrases like, "You don't understand how much I'm suffering," or "No one has ever treated me this way," are classic examples of how they try to evoke guilt or pity. Another common tactic is seduction. Promises of change, exaggerated displays of affection, or even unexpected gifts. All of this has one goal: to bring you back into their orbit. But these strategies don't stop there. In some cases, the narcissist may resort to more direct attacks, attempting to undermine your self-esteem or create conflicts to keep you engaged. He needs you to look at him again, even if it's through heated arguments. This desperate need for attention exposes just how dependent he is on external validation. However, here's the crucial detail. These reactions have nothing to do with you. They are automatic reflexes of someone losing their source of emotional supply. When you maintain genuine disdain, you're sending a clear message. He no longer has power over you. And this realization is devastating for the narcissist. Now that we understand how disdain triggers these intense reactions, we can explore what truly happens in their mind when confronted with their own fragility. Inside the mind of a narcissist, there's a constant battle between the grandiose image they present to the world and the insecurities they try to hide at all costs. This mask of superiority isn't just a choice. It's a defense mechanism built over the years to protect their emotional fragility. When someone shows them disdain, that armor begins to crack, exposing the parts they fear revealing the most. Disdain acts as an unforgiving mirror. It reflects to the narcissist who they really are, someone who desperately depends on external validation to feel whole. And this is something they cannot bear. For the narcissist, being treated with indifference means confronting their own flaws, fears, and vulnerabilities. It's as if all the doors they closed in the past are suddenly flung open again, bringing painful memories of rejection and humiliation to the surface. This exposure creates an overwhelming sense of internal chaos. The narcissist doesn't know how to handle these emotions because they've never developed healthy tools to process them. Instead, they desperately try to regain control, whether through manipulation, attacking, or attempting to seduce. But deep down, they're fighting against something much bigger than anyone around them: the truth about themselves. This dynamic explains why disdain is so powerful. It's not just a withdrawal of attention, it's a silent statement that you see beyond the mask. And this completely destabilizes the narcissist, forcing them to confront what they fear most: the possibility of not being special, admired, or indispensable. Now that we better understand what happens in their mind, we can explore how to apply disdain in practical and effective ways in real-life situations. Now that we understand the devastating impact of disdain on the narcissist, it's time to learn how to apply it practically and effectively. The first step is to internalize that disdain must be genuine. It's not about pretending to be indifferent or acting out of revenge. That would only feed the cycle. To be effective, you need to truly decide that the narcissist's opinions and actions no longer have a place in your life. Start by setting clear and definitive boundaries. This means cutting off any unnecessary interactions and avoiding the emotional traps they'll try to create. When they seek to provoke a reaction, whether through criticism, manipulation, or dramatic gestures, remain steadfast. Don't react. Remember, every response from you is emotional fuel for them. Silence and distance are your best weapons. Another powerful strategy is redirecting your focus. Invest time and energy into activities that bring well-being and personal fulfillment. When you're busy building your own life, you automatically remove the narcissist from the center of your attention. They notice this, and without the emotional fuel they once received, they begin to lose strength. However, consistency is essential. One of the most common mistakes is temporarily giving in to manipulation attempts. Phrases like, "This time it will be different," or "He's changing," may seem convincing, but they're usually illusions created by the narcissist to regain control. Stay firm and remember why you decided to take this path. Applying disdain requires courage and determination, but the results are transformative. When you take control of the dynamic, you're sending a clear message. You're no longer a hostage to their behavior. And this change can inspire those around you as well. Now imagine someone named Clara. She spent years in a relationship with a man who, at first, seemed charismatic and charming. He was the center of attention in any setting, and Clara felt special being by his side. But gradually, things changed. He began criticizing her, isolating her from friends and family, and manipulating her emotionally. Clara felt she had lost control over her own life. Until one day, something inside her changed. After a particularly painful argument, she decided she would no longer pay attention to his provocations. Clara stopped reacting to criticism, ceased trying to please him, and started investing in herself. She enrolled in a course she'd always dreamed of, reconnected with old friends, and began prioritizing her well-being. At first, he tried everything to bring her back into his orbit. He called incessantly, sent dramatic messages, and even showed up unannounced. But Clara remained firm. She ignored the attempts at manipulation and stayed focused on her new life. Over time, he realized he had completely lost control over her. Today, Clara is free. She has rebuilt her self-esteem and found inner peace. Her story is a powerful example of how genuine disdain can be transformative. When you decide you will no longer let someone's toxic behavior affect you, you open space for a new phase, full of possibilities. This transformation not only changes your life, but also inspires those around you. And this leads us to reflect on the true power each of us holds in our hands. Clara's story proves something that each of us needs to internalize. You have the power to change the dynamic of any toxic relationship. When you decide to stop caring, you're declaring that your energy, your time, and your happiness are your greatest treasures, and they are not available to someone who only knows how to manipulate and control. Don't be deceived. Following this path can be challenging. The narcissist will try to test your determination, looking for ways to regain control. But remember, they only do this because they know they've lost. Genuine disdain is a silent but powerful statement that you no longer belong to that narrative of pain and manipulation. By choosing to invest in yourself, you're sending a clear message, not only to the narcissist, but also to yourself. You deserve more. You deserve respect, you deserve freedom, and you deserve to be surrounded by people who truly value who you are. This is the first step toward reclaiming your strength and rewriting your story. If you're going through this situation, know that you're not alone. Share your experience in the comments or seek professional help. Often, external support can make all the difference. Throughout this video, we've reached the point where everything connects. Disdain is more than just a strategy. It's a declaration of independence. When you decide to stop caring about a narcissist's toxic behavior, you're taking control of your life. This decision not only destabilizes those who depend on your attention, but also creates space for you to build something new, healthy, and truly meaningful. Remember, the power has always been in your hands. Genuine disdain works because it exposes the fragility behind the mask of grandiosity. It confronts the narcissist with their own reality while you gain clarity, freedom, and inner peace. Don't underestimate the impact of this choice. It can completely change the trajectory of your life. If this video brought value to you, don't forget to like and share it with someone who might benefit from these reflections. Also, subscribe to the channel to continue learning about how to deal with toxic relationships and strengthen your emotional health. We have much more content to help you on this journey. And remember, you are light. Never forget to shine.